So yesterday I was leaving work and my timing chain skipped a beat. The chain might lose tension and skip a tooth, get off timing and get off track. And now I can't just replace the upper part of the timing chain guide. I have to replace the whole thing because I gotta resync the timing on the whole system. Well, first things first, before we get it popping, we gotta break the CV joint of the axle nut here in the middle. Anything before you jack up the car or anything, get that break that loose, and you don't have to take it off, just break it loose. So I'm gonna start chiseling away at everything to freeing up the engine. So I took the battery cover off, and to get to the battery bolt that's latching it on is right there on the bottom bracket. So I'm going to take some tape and label each wire. So the VR6, the cylinders go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here, all 6 plugs are labeled. All 6 wires are labeled. When you take out the spark plugs, inspect them, because you can see there's a bit of oil on it, and that's coming from the valve cover gasket. The oil is dripping down in there and getting into the spark plug. And if there's any debris or dirt or anything around the threads, just clean off the spark plugs nice and clean. So here I got the coil pack out. Just remember to keep the screws with it when you put it away. So in the meantime, I'm gonna drain some of the coolant. There's a fitting from the bottom radiator hose that has a special valve that you can open up to drain the coolant from there. Door speaker grills, so that gives you more peace of mind to see if there's smaller debris falling in there that you normally wouldn't notice with the bigger mesh. You can see the valve, it's right here. So once you break it free, turning it actually goes back and forth. You see? It doesn't screw down, or screw out to open. You can pop it back and forth and slow it down and speed it up. So I'm actually gonna save this antifreeze, this coolant, and put it in some jugs and reuse it. So it's gonna go for a while. You can check if it's dirty and shit. Doesn't look it. See, I got about a clean gallon. Got the pan under there just catching the rest. It's just gonna keep going. So here I took some hoses off. The thermostat housing. I'm gonna replace this. So here we have the whole front end off. I was able to detach this to get the front end off. My AC compressor's down anyways, so I didn't have anything to lose. Likewise over here, I removed the vacuum pump because I was changing the crack pipe anyways. This is the new one. This is the old one. And the crack pipe actually doesn't look bad at all. Maybe this was replaced before. The same thing with this. This might have been a replacement. OEM. Maybe. I don't know. Now I gotta work on getting the clutch cables freed up. And then I haven't even jacked up the car. The car's been on the ground the whole time through this whole process. Go ahead and take this plate off right here, this heat shield. These are two 13 millimeters. I'm just gonna take that off since we're down here anyways. To get these CV shafts off, the impact gun wasn't working a damn, and by hand and a little bit of a breaker bar works just fine to free these up. It works best if you have somebody press on the brakes while they're still, while everything's still connected, so this doesn't move while you're trying to spin it. I'm doing this job by myself, so since your battery's off, it holds enough weight. And you just press the brake down and set the battery right on it, and it'll support the weight enough to keep it in place. As I suspected, this piece is broken off, and where it is, it's right in here. See it? Look at that piece of the guide right in there. Now I'm gonna look for more pieces and inspect it a little bit more, see what's going on. Transmission off right now. It's on the jack. As you can see, it's just about out. Just trying to wiggle it out and drop it down enough to get to those 3 screws. Just got to get to these screws, so I got to bring it down, clear this part of the frame. Alright, I'm a bloody mess and I'm tired. I put everything away. Got the transmission out. Can't really see. But I'll be back at it again tomorrow. Tomorrow I gotta get the clutch off and get the timing done like stat. So to remove these clutch bolts, you gotta hold the crankshaft in place. And since I'm doing it alone, I gotta set up like this, so when I spin it, it's gonna stop it right there on the ground with the bar in place. Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do. So I got the 6 bolts out. They're 9 millimeter. I just used a box wrench, a little 9 millimeter box wrench. Now you gotta watch that because the disc is not attached to anything. That's why you need the de-alignment tool to line it up right when you tighten it up. But this will fall off along with the pressure plate if you don't prepare for it. So you don't want to let that fall and hit the ground. So be ready to catch it. That's the pressure plate. Alright, I took the flywheel out. Now I can finally get to the timing chain. So I'm gonna take all these bolts off. I believe there's like 16 of them. So I got all the bolts off, all the screws. Now we gotta pry it apart. Here's a good spot right down here. You gotta be careful with this gasket. Don't fuck up the gasket. Ooh, look at that. Piece of plastic from the guide. See, this guide is cracked. It didn't break off, but it's just about to go. This guide is completely missing. So So we're gonna have to take this bitch off here. Alright, so my parts came in. It's still morning here, so they came in just in time. I got the upper and lower tensioners and guides here to the timing chain. I got the 2 chains. I got this this tool to keep your camshafts in place, and I got a valve cover gasket. Alright, I got the new stuff on. Got the rail here. New guide down here, and the tensioner. And I did take time to clean off all the contact surface, and I took fine sanding paper and I had to clean a lot of caked on, baked on crud, oil that you would have to like really scrape off, but you don't want to damage this, so you take some fine sanding paper and shave it down. Alright, so checking this bottom cam. This tooth right here is slightly shaved in comparison to the rest, where the 2 blocks connect right here in the separation. That's where this tooth is pointing. You see below, that arrow is pointing at the mark, straight down. So everything seems to be timed. And it's timed down here. Alright, everything's tightened up. All my guides are tightened up. This is good. Still on there. Timed perfectly down there. We're putting everything back together. And before I do, I'm just gonna pull this pin and let the tensioner out. It's the main seal on. This is the old one. Let's take it off. Lay it up against 2 blocks of wood or so. Take a screwdriver, you put it right here, and take a hammer and bang it out. And to put it in, you flip it over and put it right side up. You would put a block of wood here and tap it down. I was able to just push it down gently, like, oh well, not gently, but with good force, and get it in without having to hit it. Put the top cover on, the RTV silicone. Start with the bottom 3 bolts when you put it in, because you want to make sure the bottom's nice and tight, snug first, and then you crisscross patterns all the way up and down. I got the top half that I just cleaned off. I'm gonna put our TV all around the sides and throw it on. I had to put the top cover on. I slid it in evenly. I got the 2 bottom ones first, so I had to tighten just to get this plate all the way in, and then it'll fit. But don't tighten these, tighten the bottoms, and then work your way up zigzag. So now I'm gonna put the new valve cover gasket on and close it up. It's about 6:30 a.m. The sun's just rising in the east. So now I gotta throw the clutch on, see if I can get the transmission back on, and start putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. So I couldn't get it in the driver's side CV shaft. The flange here was getting a little in the way. I did take off the other side trouble, so I took it off, try to get a little bit more. What I ended up doing here is, since I never took off the CV shaft, I undid the end links and loosened up the sway bar bushing so I can rotate the sway bar up, so I can get that CV shaft to pull over to the right so it wouldn't be constricted by the sway bar. I went up pretty high, so you see I have good clearance. So I went up pretty high and I rolled the jack in and went around with the CV shaft in a different position, up and over on towards the front end. It made it a lot easier to go in and over. For the most part, it was manhandled on the final transition to get it to this point. The intermediate bracket is on, and now I put my top transmission side mount. Slid it in so you can see they're not lining up, so I gotta line that up. I'm gonna do the same with the motor side. Pizza came, so I had to adjust the top motor mounts, the transmission mount and the motor mount, because the dog bone mount on the bottom wasn't lining up. It was off by like an inch, so I had to force the engine forward to get that to fit. She's off the jacks, so I'm going to put the wheels on and tighten the axles, the clutch cables in, and then get the front end on. Big warning, it helps a whole lot if you remove the driver's side CV shaft. Remove the driver's side axle before you do this job. It makes a hell of a lot easier getting the transmission back in. So right now I put the brake line going into the slave cylinder, and I'm bleeding her right now. So I got my battery there. Got her in there, nice and pressed. Let's do it again. So you'll notice it when it comes out, it's less fizzy as you keep going, and once you get a solid stream without it sounding like all fizzy and bubbly, then you're somewhat pretty good. My slave cylinder is in. Right now I'm gonna fill up the transmission, the gear oil, and yeah, take one of these 17s. And I'm reusing the same gear oil that I took out. While I'm down here, I'm just gonna change the oil filter. I got the new thermostat housing put on with the new crack pipe. Now I'm gonna throw on the intake manifold. I'm gonna put the vacuum, the smog pump, back in here. Goes in here like this and screws onto these two bottom bolts down here. These two. So I got the smog pump on going this way, not this way. I know it seems like you can go this way, but it was much easier going with the wide side in first. Alright, so what you want to do here on the intake manifold is go front end first. On the back side, on both sides, there's one screw on the side and one screw on this side. Screw onto the exhaust manifold bracket in the back. Before you screw those back ones on, you're gonna want to line this up and get it flush enough so you can put the screws in. Put this one on almost all the way, and then the two middle bottom ones you want to put on and get them nice and snug. And make sure the bracket is on the dipstick on the second one here. And then after these two are nice and tight and everything lines up, the two back ones are on, you can go ahead and put the one all the way on the right, because you're not going to be able to get to the two bottom ones if you tighten up this one first. So I put this bracket on and I put all the cables that match up. So these are the coil pack cables that are going to go directly up and around. So I'm going to put on the coil pack. Alright, so I got the front end on. I hooked up the hoses, whatever was left. The air box is on. Put the battery in and double check everything and fire her up. Alright, so this is the final process. I'm topping her off with oil, and that should be the absolute last thing. Top off the coolant, which is only just probably like a cup, and then I'm gonna start her over. Alright, she's topped off with oil. Now it's the moment of truth. ABS is on, that's fine. That trips every once in a while. But baby, she's running good. She sounds good. She sounds real good. She's purring. Oh yeah, baby. She purrs. Keep an eye on this coolant, so the water pump is active right now, so it's going to push out all the air and fill in the gaps. So I'm going to keep an eye on that once it gets to temp and the thermostat opens. I'm going to keep my eye on it. Oh man, she sounds great.
Did a good fucking job, man.
Oh shit.
Had that motherfucker tore all apart.
That bitch sounds like the first day I got her. Oh yeah, real responsive. And she runs really good. Much better. It's like a spotter. Dinner time.